Well, hello everyone. This is Rose Sullivan, and this is our very first video cast for this class. Today will be really brief. As you know, we officially started classes this week, although we did not have our class because our in-person class scheduled for Mondays was a holiday this week. But we still do have a little work to do, even though we officially won't meet each other in person until next week. So, in the online folders this week, I just would like to talk a little bit with you about the syllabus and give you some general information about the class itself. So, what you're looking at right now is the syllabus for our class. Probably the first thing to notice, again, you probably already know this, but it would be that this is a hybrid class, meaning that we will meet in person on Mondays and then there will be assigned online work during the week. So, that may seem obvious, but it also is an important thing to mention that when we say goodbye to each other on Monday, you're not done with class. It seemed like sometimes there is confusion about that. You will have more work to do outside of class, but we will only see each other on Mondays. So, just to keep us going here with the syllabus, you see here on this page my name, my phone number, my email address. I prefer that people email me. That's the easier way to do it. I try to get back with people as quickly as I can. Certainly, it's all right to call me, but I'm not always in the office. Sometimes I work from home, or sometimes I work from the Westfield State Library, so that's why email is often better. There you see my office hours, that I'm officially available to people, but the reality is that I am on campus a lot, and I'm always happy for people to drop in or just make another time with me. There's lots more times outside of the times that are here on the syllabus. So our classroom will be in Mod Hall 106, right off the front doors. And the course description, I'll let you all read these things. I'm not going to read you the syllabus in this video cast, but something that would be good to just say officially is that this class is really the first class for the major for usually juniors, although sometimes sophomores. And this is the class where we really start to make it clear how social work is different from other professions in terms of how we see and work with clients and different client systems. So, human behavior in the social environment, there's obviously this class in the fall, and then human behavior in the social environment 2 is in the spring. And so this essentially is a year-long endeavor where we want to immerse students in the values of social work and the way in which social work sees people. So one of the ways that social workers perceive the world and perceive their clients is by looking at clients through, in some ways, 3 different lenses, which would be to look through the lens of biomedical issues that clients are facing, to look through the lens of psychological issues that clients might be facing, and to look through the lens of understanding the social environment that a client is coming from. And we call this the biopsychosocial. This is also called the multidimensional assessment. And so HBSE 1 and HBSE 2 is the class where we will focus on the theory base that drives this multidimensional assessment. What biomedical theories, what psychological theories, what social theories help us to understand and explain the clients that we're working with. And so you're going to see the term biopsychosocial. You're also going to see the term multidimensional assessment. They are the same thing. You'll see that throughout this syllabus. So I'm going to kind of scroll down here if you're looking, with your own hard copy or just following this on the screen. I'm not necessarily going to read to you all of the course objectives and the course goals. I'll just point this out right here. After every objective and goal, you see this highlighted sort of number system. Don't worry about that. Those numbers don't concern students. They concern the accrediting body that overlooks our syllabus. So don't be worried about all those numbers that you see. So social work as a profession, as a discipline, is an applied discipline, meaning we're trying to teach you real life skills and competencies that then you will take into the real world as early as your senior year in an internship, or maybe even before that. So you'll see here, I'll highlight it, social work competencies. Every single course in the social work major will highlight different competencies that we want students to leave our courses feeling good about and feeling strong in. And so this is a list of all of the competencies that our national body has put out, that all of us include in our syllabi. The ones that are in bold are the ones where we are going to focus most closely in our class. And so I will let you read them. I'm not going to go ahead and read them all to you. But you see them in bold. Those are the things that we're really going to focus the most on. There is a paragraph here about academic honesty, and that is probably no different than any course that you have had in other classes here at Westfield. Important to read, though, and really understand, because sometimes I think people think that things like plagiarism or academic honesty is about copying something. But as you can see in this first paragraph, academic honesty covers a number of issues, so you'd want to be aware of that. There are the guidelines for written work, and again, I'm not going to read those to you because I think that you can certainly understand those and read those yourself. I'll just highlight one thing, that in the social work department we follow the APA writing style guide, and that might be different from other disciplines. So, we can certainly talk more about what APA is, and this link right here to this website helps people when they're writing papers to make sure it is in the APA style. So don't get too freaked out about that. We'll talk more about this and all kinds of things, but I'm just sort of pointing that out now. One thing that I'll point out in terms of guidelines is that if you submit electronic work, there's a little guideline here about how to submit that work, because what happens is if you don't follow this guideline that includes your name on the submission, I get a whole bunch of submissions that say paper 1, paper 2, and I don't necessarily know who they're from or what they are. So I'm just sort of highlighting that to point that out. Please, when you're submitting something electronically, make sure that it's saved with your name so I can attribute it to you. So a section about language and classroom etiquette. We'll of course speak more about that in class. It has some discussions about cell phones and other kinds of technology. Again, we'll talk more about that. There's a non-discrimination statement here, and you can read that. Clearly, I want to be as accommodating as I possibly can be with any student who needs accommodations, either officially or unofficially. So all I need from you is to just let me know how I can help in that circumstance. We have a pretty strict attendance and participation policy here in the social work program, and that is for a number of reasons. One of the more important reasons being that we only really see you once a week in person, and that might change in future years, but as of this year, we're still doing this hybrid format. And so if you miss a class, we really miss you. We don't see you then for like 2 weeks, and we don't want that. So this statement asks you to really prioritize attendance and participation. If something is really unavoidable and you need to miss class, the expectation is that you would send an email to just let me know ahead of time that I won't be expecting you. I have an attendance roll, which I take at every class, so I do keep track of those things. And participation also refers to what's going on online. If you forget that there is online work and you don't do it, that's kind of the equivalent of being absent from a class. So I'll let you read those things more clearly. And again, we can certainly talk more about them. So here is the required text. So there's kind of good news and bad news about the required text. I'll give you the bad news first. It's a really expensive book. So if you're looking at buying it new from the Westfield State Bookstore, you could be looking at least $150 for this book. However, the good news is that if you do a little shopping online, and maybe even the bookstore has used copies, but certainly if you shop online, you should be able to find this textbook at a massively reduced cost. There are lots of copies of this book out there. there's e-copies and exam copies, and there's all kinds of copies of this book out there. So my sincere recommendation to you is to try to find it online, used, or in some other format to make it cheaper. So as I mentioned earlier, I think the bookstore version of the book is like $150, but most of the time I have students who tell me they have found the book for $30, $35, at any of the large like online textbook seller platforms. So if it takes a little while to get this book used and cheaper, that's fine. We can work together around reading and stuff like that. I really would like to see all of you buy this book as cheaply as you possibly can. And the other piece of good news about this book is that we will use this textbook again in the next semester. So this textbook is a year-long textbook. You won't have to buy a new book next semester. So here's kind of a discussion about what constitutes grades. And as I'm scrolling down here with you, I'm seeing it looks kind of strange, and so I might try to fix that before we actually have class. But I can see that there's a number of things I need to fix in terms of the format, but we'll just go with what we have right now. So you have a number of assignments in our class. So the first large assignment, and I'm sorry that this is unclear, but I'm going to highlight it. The first large chunk of assignments that you have, which makes up 40% of your grade, is the online work that we will do each week. So this semester, there will be an online work opened up every week, and I tend to open things up Monday to Monday. So on Mondays, you should be able to open up the folder and see the work for this week. In the folder, there will always be, every week, a quiz, and that quiz reflects the work that appeared in that folder. It's essentially a way of checking to make sure that you really did do the work for the week. So there will be actually even a quiz in this week's folder. And because the only thing I'm talking about is the syllabus, one of the things that you will see is that the quiz is entirely about the syllabus. But it gives you a sense of what we'll be doing every week. There might also be other online assignments as we go, but you can get the gist. One of the things that you will expect to do every week before the folder closes the following Monday is the quiz that reflects the work for that week. So the other assignment that will take up 40% of your grade, which is due on December 2nd, 2019, is a group book project. So what this is, in our first in-person class, I will be organizing you into small groups. And once you're in those small groups, I will give you a book that you will be reading. This is some kind of a novel. This is not a textbook. So the only other thing you will have to buy for this class is a copy of this novel. And many of them are very recent, so you might find them in your library, so you might not even have to buy it at all. But you will all work together on this project based on the book that I give you. And essentially all of the books that I'm going to offer as choices this year are books that have very, very significant social work themes. And this group project is essentially about reading the book, discussing the major themes in the book, and then writing a large 15 to 20 page paper about the themes in the book. And although I know that this format didn't come out very well, I'm going to go on now and show you what I mean by the format. So here you see that phrase again, the multidimensional assessment. This group book project is a multidimensional assessment of a client or a group or a community. And one of the first things that you're going to do in our very first class is identify when you will all have bought the book. And then the second thing that you're going to do is create a reading schedule for your group. In other words, by what date will everybody in the group have finished the book? And you're going to submit this reading schedule to me online by Wednesday. September 18th by essentially midnight. And that's very simple. It does not need to be fancy. It's essentially a list of dates by which you will have bought the book and read the book. And then once you have all finished reading the book, you're going to then write a paper. This 15 to 20 page paper that you are turning in is one paper per group. So individual members of the group are not each writing a paper. You are turning in one paper that reflects the group. And the prompts you see here in the syllabus are all fairly straightforward. You're going to just talk about the major social work themes, the assumptions that you had, emotional reactions to reading the book, what knowledge did you gain, and then in the second part you will pick 2 psychological theories, and again this will make more sense to you as the semester goes on, because of course at this moment you don't know these psychological theories, and you're going to do the same thing for the social theories. For these 2 parts of the paper, you can really just use your textbook for the major source of information. And then part 4 is external research. And again, don't freak out. We will talk about this in class more. But essentially, after you've written the earlier parts, your group is going to go out and do some kind of independent external research about the stuff that you talked about, which will all depend on whatever you read about. So for example, if one of the books has a theme of substance abuse in it, you can be sure that there's a million articles out there, academic peer-reviewed research articles about substance abuse, and you'll pick them and summarize them. One of the things that you might, or that you're going to need to talk about is in what way does the research that you have support the book or contradict the book. That can certainly happen. And again, we will speak more about that. The last section, as you can see right here, is the summary and conclusion section, and that's pretty straightforward. You can see that that's really just kind of a wrap-up of all the work that you did. So I just want to introduce this to you. I'm sure there's probably more questions. We'll talk about that in class. So for this week, week 1, you're going to look through the syllabus and read it, do a short quiz on it, and I think I'm going to have a discussion board also in the week 1 folder where you just simply introduce yourselves. So with that, I'm going to say goodbye for now, and I really, really look forward to seeing you all in class on Monday. Okay, everyone, see you then.